Right? So if I'm going to ask you to grow and to change, I'm going to ask you to learn, I'm going to have to do the same thing throughout the year. And so I'm always reflecting on how things went, reflecting on assessments to see how I can help you learn better. So we're going to talk about a couple of details there. We're going to wrap up the bear hunting activity. So we'll recap what we did last week for those of y'all that were not here on Friday, what we did after the test, which is all about observational studies. And we're going to talk about, is anchored putting better? And so we'll discuss that. That is an experiment that we'll discuss there. And then getting started from the Carnegie Learning, right? So we got the textbooks out. If you notice, the textbooks, there's two different volumes, right? And so you're not going to need the textbook every single day by any stretch of the imagination. But I will tell you which volume you will need on certain days, right? So take both of them home, right? And when you need a textbook, I'll give you a heads up the day before, and I need you to bring the textbook with you. This is a consumable textbook. This is not something that you just read through. You can do that as well, but this is actually your textbook that you get to write in and you get to hold on to forever. So you do not turn this back in. It is yours. Every year we will get new copies of these textbooks for the next group of students to work in. And so this will have good places for you to take notes, good places for you to have definitions there, things like that. So take it home. I'll tell you which volumes that we will need when. We'll start actually in volume 2 looking at the statistics side of things, and then we will use that today, tomorrow, and Friday is the plan, but then we probably won't use it for the rest of this unit. So it's just a few days, and I'll try to give you a heads up when that's coming. All right, so changes. As I mentioned earlier, right, there's two different parts of math. There's concept, the conceptual understanding, right? And then there's the procedural fluency, which is where we do practice. I'm going to try to do a better job of balancing those two things, but one of the things that I'm thinking about to balance that is we do need a little bit more homework. Not a lot, but y'all need more practice problems than just one of each type. I think you'll need 2 or 3 of each type. It'll still only be due Mondays or Thursdays, and I'll only hand out the assignment after I feel like we have done everything. So I've been passing out the homework when we start a lesson, which is not really the best time for you to start on the homework. It's probably a second day into the lesson. So I'm going to try to be more intentional about only passing out the homework when it is time, or when you have developed the skills to be ready to do the homework. But then I need you to do the homework because that's going to be where you get a chance to ask questions and practice on your own. And then if you have questions, someone yesterday from my geometry class emailed me and said, hey, Mr. Kinney, I'm struggling with this question. Can you give me some insight? And so I had that person take a picture of what they were talking about, and I wrote out some feedback and sent it back to her. If it helped her, great. If not, I have it planned now to have a discussion about that. Right? But that's being proactive and trying the homework ahead of time. It's not due for them until tomorrow. But now I know coming into today, okay, I need to address this question in class. That's what you need to be doing as well, right? Email me when you have a specific question. I'll try to give you feedback. If you're like, okay, cool, I get it now, perfect, I don't need to cover it. But if you're still like, all right, that's not helping me, then that's why I need to cover it and talk about it in class. But when I go over a question in class for one person, it's only going to help you really if you've already tried the problem on your own as well. So when I assign the homework, it's usually only 3 to 5 questions. Try to knock it out as soon as possible so that you're ready to understand and learn from those questions as well. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, with the homework, as long as you you know how those each section is usually a different thing?
Yeah.
As long as you do 2 practice problems with us fully out, then I can figure it out on my own. But if I go home and I have a blank homework piece and I'm I don't even know where to start. As long as you have one problem that we do together in class and I can look back at it, then I can kind of know what to do already with
That's what the lessons are for. And
well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is before
yeah.
we leave class, if you were just okay, number 1, I'm just going to write out this is how I do it, and then I would be able to look back and be okay, so he
But that's what the lesson is for. Go back to the lesson to look at those notes.
But that's I don't know, it's just easier when we just do one together, at least, so can we do that? Because you've been giving us our homework ahead of time.
Correct. Here's the reason why I will say no to that. So I'm glad you're asking this question, but I am going to say no because you're taking the conceptual understanding out of it. The whole point of the homework is the practice side of things based on the concepts of what we learned in class, what we're doing with the lesson. I need you to take those concepts and try the practice problems on your own.
See, that's the problem is I have this class first, and then I got another one, and another one, another one. Then I get home, and I'm like, I don't remember what I did.
So
math
this
today.
is why you need to take notes and explain, and not just write down the steps of what we're doing, but make sure that you explain why you're doing what you're doing. So like when you take notes, and so that's a good point, but when we take notes, or when we go over stuff as a whole class, even if you have the right answers, that's when you take notes about why are we doing what we're doing. Because the why is going to help drive what you're doing on the homework. And then
I just like having the
when we
notes
have-
in like numbers instead of like word. Like I'll have them in words, and it's like you have to minus this and do this. But then if you just show us like in numbers like what I'm doing, I can kind of like.
So here's
go
the
off
thing,
that.
I hear what you're saying, but what you're really asking for is for me to tell you step by step something for you to memorize and just do. And that is going to work for you short term in that it might help you get better prepared for the test, but this is why then when students go to the next math class, they struggle to remember that concept or how to do the problem. And it's also why if you look at a lot of students who have A's and B's all the way through math classes, and then they score high teens and low 20s on the ACT, it's not because we're bad test takers. That's a myth that a lot of people have started to put forward. It's because we haven't been trained to think, we've been trained to reproduce. Okay? And so I know that it's uncomfortable, and it's a few weeks in. And I hear what you're saying, I'll try to do a little bit more with it, but long term, because of the research I've done at the university and other people have done, it's going to be better for you if I don't just say, hey, do this every time.
See, that's the thing is I'm good with you, like we're on the same page, but that's the problem is you understand both sides and you think
Right.
that we got one the whole time and now we need to do the other. But mine's the opposite is I know like I can explain it out to you, but then once it gets to the numbers I'm like
Right.
like
So
I don't know like the equal like how you could
here's-
do negative
yeah.
and not negative like
Here's
that
what-
that confuses me.
And that's why I'm talking about this balance here. I'm not going to add a ton more homework questions, but I'm going to, no, you're good, 2 to 3 questions instead of just one of each. 2 to 3 so that you try it on your own. Then when you come in and ask questions, then we can talk about that 1 to 2 and you still have 1 or 2 left on your own.
Yeah, exactly. I'm fine with that. I just
Does that
make
make
sure,
sense?
Yeah,
So
I'll-
I just want you to try the homework first, and then that way you have extra questions to practice on your own.
yeah, that's the only problem is I'll do the homework and then I start, my mind is like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And
So-
then I get in here and you're like, no, that's wrong. And I'm like, crap, I just told
And then you
myself.
still need to practice, but you still
Yeah.
need to practice it the right way.
Yeah, no,
So
it's
does
just good to
that
have
make sense?
like
We'll
a-
still get that practice, and you'll get a little bit of that, but I want you to try it on your own first,
Mhm.
and then we'll practice.
Like in the book, is this how the book was last year? How like, usually it would have a problem and it kind of showed like the whole thing and then the next page it was like a whole like reading thing of like what the
No.
explanation or no?
As far as I've seen, it is not exactly like that. Okay, but we do need to get going because we got to get to today's lesson. Another thing here, we're gonna start having daily 5-point grade of just active participation. And it's active participation and collaboration. So at the end of class, I'm going to make some quick notes to myself about how actively you were collaborating. If you get off task, you're going to lose some points out of the 5 points possible for that day. So all I'm asking you to do is to consistently sit there and talk with your group about the math. As long as you're doing that, you're going to be earning those 5s. If I ever have to talk to you about, not being on task, that's where you're going to lose points. And it doesn't just mean sit there silently. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to actively participate and collaborate. As long as you're doing that, that's 5 points every single day. And then I'll put the grade in at the end of the week of how many you scored out of 25. Okay? I know COVID is still an issue, so if you have to be absent for a prolonged amount of time, I'm not going to count that against you and I won't put that week's grade in. But when you're actively participating and collaborating, that's when you're going to learn. And so that is going to be a grade that we have moving forward. Assessment. A lot of us actually did very well. I want to say the class average was a 75. So it's right at a C, it's the mid C, and that's actually good. It's not exactly what I wanted for everyone, okay?
Is our grade like,
They're on, yeah, they're posted.
I don't have like.
I still can't log into my thing.
So if you want to see what your grade is after class, let me know.
Dang, I have to really.
I got stuff to teach
I know, but
You
then
don't
I
know how to
have.
grade with me? Like,
in here. 97 or 98.
I need to have time to think.
It might have been a little bit higher, but I know it was at least had 97 or 98. So as I said, the class average was 75. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm not passing back the test yet because some people still need to take the test, and the plan is to have them do that this week. Starting Friday, if you want to come in during tutoring hours, so you can come in on Tuesday and Friday mornings, and realistically, I'm here every morning, so you can come in the mornings and just work. Or if you want to come in Monday or Wednesday afternoons, you can come in, correct your the questions that you missed points on, right? So if you didn't earn a 5 to a 6, that's probably a question you want to look at. You can correct it, work on it, use the feedback I gave you to improve it, or even ask some questions. I won't give away the answers, but I'll ask questions to help push your understanding so that you can earn up to half credit back on that question. Now, that's not normally how I do those kind of reassessment ideas. You can keep your score at whatever it is after you earn that half credit back, or if you want to shoot for a higher score, you can do a reassessment after you come in and do your corrections. Okay? So those are options, because one, I want you to earn a higher score because it will help your grade out, but more importantly, that grade reflects your understanding. And so some of us need to work on our equations and inequalities a little bit, and so that option is there so that you can improve your understanding and improve your grade. Make sense? We good? Okay. So you can always come and talk to me and see what that is, but we gotta get started with today. So here's our objectives. We need to be able to explain how observational studies and experiments differ in respect to their goals, explain why bias and confounding are serious issues for observational studies and experiments. So what is today all about? Observational studies and experiments, right? Those are two types of studies that you will see in a statistics class. You've actually, I would assume, have heard of experiments pretty heavily in a science classroom. And so it's kind of like that, but a little bit different on the statistical side. So we need to know how they are similar and how they're different in respect to their goals. Like, what is the objective of an observational study? What is the objective of an experiment? And this idea of bias and confounding are super important overall. So, on Friday, for those of us that weren't here, we talked about this idea of bear hunting, which y'all need a copy of bear hunting. I know, Jane, you were here on, okay. Anybody else not here on Friday? Okay. If you missed the test, I need you to come talk with me to find the time that we can make it up, or you can come into tutoring to ask questions, prepare for the test. I will say the people I saw had the most success were the ones who worked through the review packet or reworked the questions in here. That's a good idea. And look at your assessments, look at your homeworks. You may not feel like it, but there's nothing on the test that exact concept was not on the homework, on an assessment, or on the review packet. Everything was in there. Except for the absolute value equations and inequalities, which that was the stuff we had just covered.
Do you allow?
Which that was on the review packet too.
Do you allow like cleaning for extra credit? Is that a thing?
No.
No. I had teachers who would be like, look, if you sweep my classroom, I'll give you
Yeah,
like
no. I want y'all to learn something.
I'll learn how to sweep.
I want you to learn math.
And how to sweep?
Math.
Oh.
Alright, so we started on the statistics side of Algebra 2 with stats. And so the question becomes, how many bears do we think are in Talladega Forest? Obviously, we're not going actual bear hunting, so what did we do instead on Friday?
We threw M&Ms in the yard.
Threw M&Ms on the yard, and then
Counted them.
You counted them, right? You called it out to a partner. You did an observational study. I already sent out the data from Friday, didn't I? Okay, go ahead and open that data. And so we collected information about different types of M&Ms. What were the color M&Ms that we recorded? By the way, go ahead and get your bear hunting sheet out. What colors?
Green, red, brown, yellow.
Green, red, brown, and yellow, right? So we ignored our orange and blue because that's Auburn and that's Grody. Grody. So,
we collected numerical statistical data.
did we collect numerical statistical data?
It's numerical because there's a number of bears, but technically, well, how many bears? Yeah, it'd be a question. And then statistical because it's gonna have different numbers for the different types of bears.
Okay, so let me ask you this, when you were walking along and you were calling out to your partner, were you calling out numbers?
No, color. So it'd be categorical.
So it'd be categorical, right?
But the question was how many bears, not what color bears.
The question was how many brown bears, right?
Well, see, that'd still be a number though. How many brown bears?
It isn't, but it doesn't matter what the category is, or if it's categorical or numerical, you're always gonna have some kind of number involved. The question is, what type of response do you get, right? So as you're going along, right? And so another way I could have said is, what is the most common type of bear in Talladega Forest,
Yeah.
right?
I just thought the first question was like how many brown bears, so that's why.
Let me clarify. How many brown bears, that is numerical.
Mm.
But the bear hunting, where you're going out and you're calling out the type, the color of M&M,
Would that be like, you know how you said a frame of reference, how you're like Hillcrest, like students at Hillcrest High School, so that would be your frame of like 10
Right.
miles or whatever, so how many like?
well, that's your sample of the
Yeah.
population, right? So there's all those M&Ms out there,
Mm.
and this is your sample as you
Yeah.
walk along, you're calling it out, right? Okay, so, yes, the question about brown bears, that was numerical.
Mhm.
However, the study that we ended up doing was
Category.
categorical, right? Because we were counting those frequencies. Alright, so I'll show what I have in a second, but we recorded the frequency of each color of M&M on a separate sheet of paper, right? I collected that data, that's what I pushed out to y'all, right, on the TI-Nspires. And so we're gonna get to this number 3 right here. After calculating the sample proportions, based on your sample of M&Ms, if you had 10,000 M&Ms, then how many red, how many green, how many brown, and how many yellow M&Ms would you expect to see? Alright?
So are we gonna use it off of our base number that we already have, like we counted 37 in all, and we got 7, and then you divide or whatever? Would you do the same as if you put 10,000 at the bottom and then?
Yes-ish? Okay, let's talk about this. Does anyone remember how we talked, or what we did to figure out the total number of M&Ms here?
We added.
Okay, did you add it individually in the calculator?
No.
Okay.
Multiply.
Repeated edition.
Repeated.
Is it repeated addition? That's a good question. When we say repeated addition, that means we are adding the same thing over and over.
Yeah, no.
There's a function though in the calculator that we can use to add it up for us.
B1.
I can't remember, it was like B1.
Yeah, B1, B2 or something.
There's something else. Okay, so first off,
Sum.
this is just like Excel.
Sum.
There we go. I was gonna say, what's another word for add? It's a sum, right? So in the TI-Nspire, type out or hit the equal sign, right? And then type out sum. You'll notice it's italicized, and as soon as you hit the M, it's no longer italicized. That's a mathematical operation. After we type out sum, what do?
Oh, it said missing.
Those were the parentheses.
Parentheses. So sum, parentheses, and then what are we summing? What do I do?
The whole group.
That whole group, right? So remember, hover over the first number, press down until it grabs it, and then drag all the way through B1 to B4. You can also just type it out as B1 colon B4, but that's how you can sum it up very
Okay, how am I
quickly.
dragging again? I got
How
it.
do I get
So
it to
once you
let go?
highlight it, so hold
Mhm.
and then drag.
How do I get it to let go?
I don't know what I would do.
Okay. So go back to the sum. Oh, you forgot to hit the equals. So one of the first things you have to do, just like in Excel, you're gonna type equals
Oh.
first,
Now
sum.
everything. Oh my
Now
God,
it knows to
right.
make this an operation, so you're gonna, and see how it's now highlighted,
Okay.
and you just drag down. Once it's highlighted everything, you hit enter.
You're like double
Yeah.
everything.
Enter one more time.
It's supposed to be what, B1, B? Mine says 4, what's yours say 5?
That's not the same.
Oh, it's because we have 5 groups on accident. I could get it to scroll through.
No, we're supposed to have 5 groups. Well, we're only supposed to have 3 groups.
No, that's what I'm talking about, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, like to red. I'm saying this one, it says 5 because we're in the 5th one.
So notice you can just edit it so it's B1, B4 like that, and it'll work. Does anyone else need me to help them out?
Is this supposed to be a B4? Because it said B5.
Yeah, it's supposed to be B4,
Okay.
because you're on B5,
How
right?
do you get it to
Ah.
enter?
It went away.
Like,
You just hit enter.
it, didn't do that on mine.
You have to hit it twice, I think.
Okay, it just
Okay.
said that was the same.
Oh, okay, great.
So let's hit escape. So then there, and then drag down.
Okay.
Why is it not? It might be more efficient to just put the colon.
Is this right? Oh, dang
The
it.
colon.
Like a
So after you get the B1, B4, do you push enter again?
equals sum.
B1 to B4, you hit enter one more time. Yep. There
Okay.
we go.
And
So you have to
then-
hold it down until it's.
Do you want us to do that with everyone?
There you go. Nope. Instead, it should say 230. Make sure you put parentheses around the B1 to B4. Really quickly, so if I can grab everyone's attention, you don't have to do it all again. Once it's there, right, highlight that cell that you just summed, okay? Go to the bottom right corner, and the cursor should change into a plus symbol, and then you can just drag that all the way along to the end. So you want to drag it to, what, E5? You may have to
Hey,
go D5,
help me.
because we only have 3 groups, that's right.
Mr. Ken,
Please help me.
it keep on saying, oh,
I'm coming.
Mine says
You're missing a parentheses.
but I
Equals sum, not sum equals.
no.
Equals sum. There you go. Right? And then so you will highlight, go down to the bottom right, grab it, and then drag it. Make sense? What? What did not make sense?
the dragging
This whole
part.
thing,
The
this
part where you
press
drag
it.
it. Hey, does anybody
Once you learn it though, it's really useful.
figure out how to drag?
So go to the bottom right corner, hold the center button down for a few seconds, and then you literally just drag it to the right. You'll see it automatically start to fill. There you go. Yeah, you don't want that one, just delete
See,
that.
why would I learn how to do it when he knows how to do it just fine?
Because you need to know how to do it. Oh, all you did is type
Lame.
163.
How does he
You
have
want that
super
sum.
Because I swear
Okay.
everything I say behind his back, he's like,
Yeah, so hold
what am I
and
doing
drag
again?
that over.
Hold
Does that make
down
sense?
on.
On the right.
Alright, does anyone need me to go back over that individually with them? Yes, Jaden? Stuff? Literally just,
Like when you hold down,
Oh.
only hold down on
so
231
hit escape
and
from here
then let go.
and just go up. Okay. So if it ever is
And
stuck
do
and
it.
you can't, just hit escape.
So
So
hold down on
equals
231.
sum parentheses, not parentheses. And just, so,
Oh.
there we go.
Oh, thank you.
See if that, nope, I won't.
Hey, what did I do?
Yeah, there you go. Okay?
Delete.
Alright. The whole point of that is, I know that the calculators are confusing at first because you're learning something new. It's okay to be confusing. This can be much faster for you long term because let's say you had 20 numbers instead of 4. It'd be kind of hard, or not hard, but it would take more time to sum all 20, correct? Whereas the calculator can do it like that. So it's learning how to use our calculators for bigger situations. Now, the other thing that we might want to do is, I asked you to calculate the what of each of these?
The non
The mean?
The
Not the
something.
mean, because we don't have,
median,
not the median.
What's like?
It was the
radian?
big word.
or the, or sample proportions.
The sample proportions, right? It's just the proportion of a sample. How do we calculate those proportions?
It was like,
Oh,
it like, all the number red over.
So it'd be all the red divided by the
Total.
number.
total number. We all good with that?
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, I probably, so we each collected these sets of data, but if I'm gonna take all the red divided by the total, I need to figure out what all the red are, right?
Mhm.
How am I gonna figure out what all of these red are?
Add them together.
Add them together, how can I do that in the calculator?
That thing we just did.
The thing we just did, right? So equals sum, and then highlight those 3 cells that we want it to sum. So hopefully this second time around it's a little bit quicker. and sum all of the colors of M&Ms.
I forgot to highlight.
No.
I would also sum your total numbers of M&Ms as well.
Enter.
I'm pushing enter, come on, enter. It's.
Mine won't let me hit enter.
Yeah, mine's being about enter,
Yeah?
yes.
So those are the numbers we should get.
I just scrolled down too far.
Oh, then hit escape in that case. Okay, that's, oh yeah,
Ah,
that's way too much. Hit
Yeah.
escape. Let me see.
enter.
It likes being difficult.
Okay. Type it again. Just highlight those three, okay?
Equals.
Sometimes you do just have to play around with it.
So,
So that should be right. Nope. There we go. Then hit
okay,
enter
look,
again.
once I get that,
Oh, okay.
do I need to?
Now click on that 53.
You have to, okay.
And then
so
hit
you're
enter.
going-
Oh, okay. There we
Yeah.
What the
go.
heck?
Why would you keep
Okay.
them very?
So, hold
I'm
down.
printing in.
Oh, wait,
I'm
I
printing in.
forgot to do it on there. Okay.
You're just trying to sum all
You
these,
need
right?
help, Colin?
I'm
So,
printing all of them.
You did it already?
Sum, parentheses.
okay, equal,
And highlight
where
those
does my
three
number
cells.
go? What was
Okay.
this supposed to be?
Click on the first one.
What
Okay,
was,
I
hold
figured
it
it
down.
out if you need it. What,
So
which
click no on
one?
the 0, sorry.
what, that was supposed to be
And hold it
101?
down.
I don't know why I erased that.
So,
Okay.
let's see, try right
Okay,
now.
now you do it.
Okay,
Good.
yeah. that's fine.
What the
Okay,
heck?
so you already did equal
And then hit
and sum.
Right, so I just clicked on the 21,
And
then
then-
hit enter.
So
there's
equal,
your
sum,
20.
and that. Okay, so go to your
You
first
can
number
do
right
that,
here,
or remember,
and
What
hold
the
it.
what you can do is you
heck?
can,
And then let go
once you
and do
highlight
that.
this
Okay,
cell,
and then,
you can go
enter.
down here until you see the
And there you
thing
go.
change,
so
Click
what, look,
again.
go to your very last number at the end of
and
the
it
row.
drags down.
like
And it'll
76
automatically
right
do
here.
it for you. So drag it all the way
And that's
down
where
to
you're
one.
gonna drag it and you're gonna click to there. So look,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna do it again.
We
So look,
You
equal,
need the parentheses,
sum,
and then
Okay.
parentheses. Okay, now watch. You go to the first
hold on
one,
to 83.
hold it,
And then
drag, and then when you're on the last
to
one,
53.
do, like just
Yeah.
click it.
Hurry.
I drove to the right. And then look, when you're on this number, right before the ending,
Okay.
hold it. 253? Is that what you got?
I got it.
Okay. So you need,
You need help.
so you need it inside there. And realistically, let's-
Just hold it till the last number
I would
and
make
then
sure
click.
that I can
and
see
then
the
click
cells
enter.
that
I got
so
it.
do.
Good job, Lexi.
So, and then do the equals.
It likes to be complicated. We've established that. What's on your shirt?
Highlight.
Equal
Oh,
sum.
over here.
And
It's
then
easier when you can see all the cells you need.
It's the artist.
And then instead of doing it that all again, we're just gonna go here.
Got it, got it, got it.
A plane crash.
Okay?
Hey, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
Am I just supposed to click enter?
Yep,
Equal
you can.
sum, correct.
Hold on one second. Okay, then hit enter again.
You'll get like 2 or 3.
So I
for
think one
free,
thing I've been
and
finding
then
is
if
you
want
click there on the
extras, they're
21
like
and then
cheap
hit
for
enter,
us. Like you can
and then
probably
there you
get
go.
Christian
And then that'll
$5
do
and
it.
we'll do
So you
that.
need to click on the last cell. Okay?
I already did. I said, you need to hire Caitlin Hammond.
Alright, has everyone been able to sum their values?
Just because you said it.
Right? So we should have these numbers there, 28, 98, 253, 196. So what are we trying to calculate from here?
The average.
An average,
Here we go.
Sample proportion.
a sample proportion, right? Which is the total number of brown divided by just how many total M&Ms there were, right? So this is another place where these calculators can be really powerful. Up to this point, you just have to take 28 divided by 575 individually every time, right? Okay? Instead, you see where there's this option where it says equals in gray? That's another good place to type an equation. So I'm going to put the word total up here in the column so I can use that. So equals total, right? Notice how it went from being italicized to being bold, right? So now that is taking this column total right here. Okay? So I am taking this column total right here, and what do I need to do to each one of these numbers in that column?
Divide.
Divide it by,
575?
and there it is, right? If you want to, we could create a decimal version of this by just putting a decimal in that 575,
Oh, I put
and
total
it'll
and it said
automatically
error,
make
error.
those into decimals.
Wait,
Okay.
where do we put the decimal?
In the 575 at the end of it.
Oh, okay.
Did you never get these sums? Okay, well, why didn't you say something when I asked 2 minutes ago? Or was walking around and helping other
Okay.
people? You gotta ask questions,
You
right?
just-
So you don't want C3, you want to start at B3,
Total.
right? B3 to D3, enter, that's it, right? Now, there is some level of difficulty with, so like you wanna be able to see the 3 cells that you're trying to sum easily, so
Is it
equals.
sum equals or
Now,
equals?
I'm gonna sum those 3 cells, so I'm gonna click on the first one,
This is for
hold it down,
column.
drag, once I get to my cell, I click in again. Now it's got B1 to D1, that's what I want,
You did.
hit enter, and there's my sum. It's easy once you get one of these done, because then you just go to the corner and you hold it down until you got that grabbed, and drop it over. That's it. It's total divided by 575. You divide the total by 575.
See, these are the days like,
Just
If
saying,
I
I
had
sing
one-
song voice isn't gonna help you understand.
everybody,
When it
these are the
starts
days
off,
you better be like, yes,
So
ma'am.
equals sum.
Beautiful skin, and
You
even
just
don't
need
worry
to
about
highlight
it.
the 3 cells that you're trying to sum. You're trying to sum these 3, right?
That's what I did. I came
Now
to school,
highlight it,
I
I
spent the
drag,
night at my boyfriend's house.
I click in
And I came
again,
to school late,
enter.
and I had one like a
That's it.
huge one on my neck, and everybody
What are you
was
trying to do?
I don't even know.
It's
My mom
equals
saw a hickey
total,
on my neck,
and then
and she
remember, all I
got
said
school
was you're
after
dividing it by
friends and said,
575.
Put it on your neck. I was like, okay, thanks, Mom. My mom, I've seen it.
Well, you
before, my
didn't
mom's
type
done
it
before, and I
into
was
the
like,
equals either. Remember how I said, name
You're too
this
old for
so that it's total. Now we're making that a variable. And I'm gonna type it in as an equation, so I don't have to do each and every one. I'm gonna do equals total
It was 3 of us at the.
divided by 575. And it's gonna give you a fraction right away. If you put a
He's a big
decimal
boy.
anywhere in a number, it's going to automatically give you decimals.
We had part of the night and then.
Does that make sense? Okay? So just put a decimal, go up to the 575, and then put a decimal at the, after the last 5. So click on that cell, there you go.
Okay, how do you
Go down
decide?
here, is the easiest way.
I said the whole day.
It'll allow you to edit it.
Until they're not.
It should, here, let's see.
Man, yeah, I'm saying, we're not gonna work on doing another one.
Yeah. So
It's
put
fine
it in
if you're
there.
a dude, you can do whatever. I'm not trying to be a hoe because then you get a reputation.
Did it work?
Alright,
Hey, can you help me, because I did it and it deleted all of my work? One second,
hold on.
wait.
You're making your life harder than it has to be.
No, I already did the escape thing, it didn't work. One second, let
Hold
me
on,
just finish
hold on,
this
hold on,
last
stop,
one.
stop. Remember, 1, you can undo anything you messed up.
That's what I